get it going. So thank you everybody for joining us today for our January TTR Networking Presents. Today's is Beyond the Paper, and we're gonna learn, we're going to hear from Robert Bonjour with Offset House Printing. And not only has Robert been a member of TTR for about 7 years, I may have added a few days or subtracted, but he's also our first and only global partner right now. We'll talk more about that. But when we get to January, we have the theme of TTR networking. Our theme for January is joining, which when we put that on paper many years ago, and we were trying to figure out the different themes of the year, joining means much more than if you go to go to Google or Wikipedia or something. It's a pretty simple, connecting to things. And but I think when it comes to our networking organization, TTR networking, or anything that you're joining out there, there's more to it than just, connecting on paper. So Nicole actually came up with the Beyond the Paper, and I've had some conversations with Robert over the last so many years, and primarily this last year. So we've been talking a lot about what Offset House, how they've done what they've done, and how Robert is part of this family business. And he's a young dude, but he's been in our network for about, like I said, 7 years. There's something they're doing that is right, that other companies in their same industry are struggling. And I'll share more, and maybe Robert, you can correct me on any of this, please. I am not in your industry, but I just know from outside looking from the outside and knowing a lot of the, our situation has been, we've had a lot of printers that fill out applications to join us. We've never met them. They say they're coming, they never come to our meetings. Even when we moved to Zoom, they are not there. So it's like, come on, people, it couldn't be easier, and how are we supposed to even know what they do? So just really quick, TTR networking, we've been around, we are working on 12 years. We started out as one group in Noblesville, meeting literally 12 years ago every Wednesday morning, and we're part of another organization that is out there, and it's a great organization, but we decided to try our own, and we started, and before the pandemic, we were multiplying like crazy. Pandemic hit, and we're doing quite a bit to maintain and keep ourselves going. Is that somebody, I don't know, somebody needs to be on mute, maybe, please. But anyway, just getting around to it, ttrnetworking.com, you can find out more about us. Let me see, somewhere we're getting an echo, so not sure, maybe it's me, guys, I don't know. But anyway, having said all that, I am the founder of TTR Networking, and I just really, TTR Presents is how we usually put it out there. And it's to focus on our members, give them a little spotlight. And I asked Robert about doing this a couple of months ago, or maybe a month ago, I don't know. But anyway, thank you for being here today. We're gonna get right into it and introduce our special speaker today. If other people jump on, we will welcome them. But we're gonna turn it over. Well, actually, let me see. Let me turn it into speaker view so we can see. Oh, there's Roy. He's the one that's the leak. Okay, but we're gonna turn it right over to, Robert, we just thank you for being here. So maybe, let's see. Roy, I might need to mute you. Where are you, Roy? Let's see. Mute you. Uh-oh, he's getting an echo of me. Can you hear me? All right. Roy, can you mute me, please? Or can you mute yourself?
Mute you?
Yeah, no, just mute you. Mute you because you're getting in there. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're going to get kicked off here and we're going to,
There we go.
there. Thank you. I'm sorry, but I think you're getting an echo of me. Okay. So Robert Bonjour. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, and everyone else, thanks for the time.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I asked you a couple, well, yeah, it's probably been not quite a couple months ago, but I asked you about doing this. And my thought was, I've spent so many times, we've had you speak at our meetings, you've done your presentations, every meeting, it seems like you're always, there's like, I can see the wheels turning. Can you tell us, and that's not a bad thing. It's really all about, well, I hope that by the end of it, we're going to have some really some major themes that kind of stand out as far as, what you're doing as a young business person working for a company that's been around for a long time, family business, some of the keys to you guys and your success. What do you think makes you different? And this is a time when I really want you to toot your own horn and Offset House Printing. But can you tell us just really, I just kind of introduced you.
Yeah, I can give you guys the whole background.
Yes.
So my first job with the company was pulling tape off of film that we used to image plates, probably back when I was about 8 years old. So that was my first start with the business. Years later, I was doing like part-time stuff as I was going through school and all the other. And originally, when I even came on board full time, I was going to school to finalize my certifications for welding. So that's my love is getting to build things and create things. So this kind of was something that incidentally just really worked out for what I wanted to do for my future endeavors. But when I started with the business, outside of putting orders together or just doing handwork, certain things like that, stuff a lot of envelopes by hand, a lot of stamps on by hand, a lot of humbling work around here. But we also had me be our mailing lead that was responsible for doing direct mail, getting everything up to compliance with U.S. Postal Service standards, and inevitably I went into staging projects for operators and kind of being the liaison between the sales office and production. We've had production managers in the past, but we kind of work at our own pace in a roundabout sense of we don't like to micromanage our people. They work very efficiently and effectively, and we have no problem asking for help. So basically 9 years ago, I was given an opportunity to basically take over a book of business. And had a lot of success the really second and fourth year to double that book twice and grow the company into a stage that was really good for us. Incidentally, as everything happens, there was changes in staff, mainly within our sales department, which is common for our industry. And it put me kind of in a weird spot where I was more of a sales manager, more or less than an account manager. We found years later that wasn't really the best way for us to go about producing relationships with outside companies and individuals. So since then, I now have 2 folks that monitor my email to help me kind of stay on pace and keep everyone up to date with what they need to do. So the day in, day out of Robert Bonjour would be basically having one-on-one meetings with prospects, individuals, discovery calls, or even people in my networking groups where I'm trying to come alongside and grow in certain verticals. And obviously I don't know everything. So as us trying to get towards the healthcare and senior living, there's going to be a lot of insurance and Medicaid folks that are going to be able to educate me on the right types of conversations instead of me just calling on a business and say, hey, what do you got for me? We focus on trying to bring value into the business as a strategic partner. And I pride myself on that. I think any of us as professionals in our industry, we pride ourselves on bringing something to the table that we feel is underserved to our industry. And I feel like that's truthfully what identifies us as a quote unquote better fit for certain types of opportunities. So Early on in my career, I really kind of stood around nonprofits, just because I was very well versed in how mailing worked, how timelines work, and to executive directors, that's really important to keep their funds rolling through the door. There is a lot of folks that still prefer to receive something in the mail to make a response, to make a donation. There are definitely ways that you can do all this electronically. We are just purely another funnel that's involved into a communications, right? So we look at that in means of, okay, how do we simplify a piece of paper not being something that's a task to do? How can we go in and work with your IT department or work with your data compliance department to say, hey, we can scan this in and we know exactly what we're doing. Taking a step further on that, I had a conversation with an individual that literally creates software to go in and do certain things that are keying in entries based on scans, those types of things, basically doing the mindless thing that we want to get in a hurry on and make mistakes. And I am saying that truthfully because I do it all the time. But the whole thing with it is we try and look at it in a bigger scope, right? I really don't like just selling jobs. I don't really view myself as an order taker. We want to make people as efficient and effective as possible. So with that being said, faith-based is a pretty big part of the people I serve. And a lot of those folks have internal resources where they can print and produce certain literature in-house. What we found coming alongside of those folks is there's different expectations and timelines that, if well communicated and we have a conversation with their creative department, we can overcome all those challenges. Better yet, we can even produce them a lower month-to-month cost, and sometimes we're able to give them a better opportunity with their technology partner, right? Let's say they have a production model that they're just really not capitalizing on. Both parties are losing money in that situation. The upkeep on that machine is costing the person leasing it thousands of dollars, guarantee it. And on the other side of it, you are paying a bill that you're not utilizing. So kind of proving out those point of concepts is another thing that we do. Another piece of business that we're bringing to the table this year is we're going to inevitably have an e-commerce platform where the folks that are dissolving that portion of their internal print, so to speak, they could go on and order that and it could be shipped directly to those homes. This is a big conversation for folks that inevitably had a large group of employees within one space where it made sense to have somebody full-time on staff to take care of all that. And thus they want to go to a hybrid working space where they might come in once a week. We're not going to really be able to justify dollars on square footage and salary when we're only hitting that person once a week, and those methods aren't something that they have internally, right? They're doing it electronically because they don't want to have to sit there and wait for it to get done or over communicate it or police the project in the most layman's term. That's kind of me at an earshot. So like, I would love questions, but like, there's a lot of stuff I know, but I am so all over the place. And like, I jokingly say to everyone, if I could have a squirrel with a wire on my back where it's above me at all times, that would be the emoji that I would pair myself with.
You're a funny man. You're a funny man. He's crazy. He's a young guy, but you know what? Those of us, and I don't know if anybody on this call, I don't think anybody, Roy, I know knows you now, but Roy wasn't part of our group when you joined. But I remember so many times you did presentations for us, and I'm like, this guy knows, he's really a deep thinker. I mean, you, for a young guy, which we were saying 7 years or so, you've been with TTR. And I remember that well before the pandemic, we were meeting at Jim Dandy there, and there were so many times that I'm like, wow, he really knows what he's doing. What I would say, it's not about me. You joined TTR, you have memberships to all kinds of things as far as Offset House. our whole month of January is talking about joining and why people would join. You're not always about joining because of what you're going to get. It's more what you're going to give, right? Is that am I speaking?
Yeah. So when I look at business, and like, I'm not saying like I have like acronyms after my name. So like, you don't have to like take this so literal, but when I look at business as a whole and I look at networking as a whole, the whole thing that I'm trying to do is tighten my sales cycle faster, right? And so what I mean by that is availability would definitely be one point of why I go out and network, because there's a lot of folks that just don't want to have the conversation because it seems so simple that they feel stupid asking the question. I mean, I've been there and done the same thing. It's like, this is so simple, I should be able to figure this out, right? And just being open to that conversation. The other side of it too is it's like, I do a lot of discovery calls purely with the intention of trying to connect people, right? If it comes back in some way, cool. That's not the goal though. The goal is to trying to come alongside of other professionals to help them do the same exact thing that I'm trying to do with myself, right? Make a better sales cycle. We brought on 30 customers last year that are all small businesses purely because of a relationship with a graphic designer that was willing to take on some of these accounts that more or less no one would take the time unless it was, hey, this is what we're going to do for you and here's why, but I need your buy-in of seeing the value before I make this introduction. And those are the introductions that I intend on making most of the time. I can give lukewarm introductions, but they don't really do anything other than not allow the relationship to build quicker, right? So that's the whole thing is coming alongside of like, hey, what industry are we trying to break into? And then thinking bigger on that of how I'm in print, you're in retail, right? It's two different complete industries. Like we're selling two different products. I'm a manufacturer, and you're trying to keep inventory and keep costs where it needs to be and attract customers all at the same time. We both relate into the same industry because we're both serving it in the same roundabout way. You're delivering a product, we're delivering the communication about the product, right? So that's where I try and centralize like, hey, how can we work together to kind of build some relationships within this field, this vertical, this organization, those types of things, because it's all the slow game. People that do exactly what I do are legitimately not producing a lesser product than what I have. I would say the way that it's delivered might look different on the service side, but you can either print or you can't print, right? And this is not the most forgiving industry. Like you're only allowed so many second chances before it's like, nope, I'm good, right? And it goes for everyone, but we make money on repeat business. So we can't necessarily afford to take on a situation that's just not going to be a win-win for both of us. Sometimes it's very one-sided and we don't have a choice on timeline. It just is what it is. And they're a big asset to our business. We just got to figure it out, and we do, right? But like that's what the relationship and the partnership comes with, right? It's not you jump up on a stage and do our dance and oh, by the way, here's what the cost is and all the other stuff. It's we either feel the relationship and feel like there's going to be good communication between the two of us, or it's really hard to make it worth it, right? It's hard to get somebody motivated to really overcome this challenge for this client when it's just we hear from them once every 5 years and it's always the same old dance.
So it's trying to work together.
It gets old.
Yeah, it gets old. Well, okay. So let me, guys, if you're thinking of questions, we're not necessarily saying you can't ask them, but I know you said that your offset house printing has started 59 years ago now, right? Did you get, when they threw you to the wolves, I don't think they did that, this is your family, but did they give you any kind of marketing or networking back, any kind of training, or did you just kind of have to learn it on your own?
Okay, so my first networking exposure, and I don't think they have these anymore, but if you're familiar with Captain Selfie or Chris Reed, he used to
Yes,
grow a
I do.
brand called Sparks.
Yep, that was great.
Oh my goodness, I was so scared of that opportunity, and I was like, I suck at showing up to these events because I don't really want to talk to 40 people at the same time. I want to get to know them on a one-on-one basis.
Sure, sure.
And then that's kind of when I was introduced to like weekly networking meetings, right? And what's funny is my superiors said that's never worked for any salesperson that's ever worked for this company. And holy crap, did they put their foot in their mouth in about a year and a half. The relationships and the amount of business that's multiplied is insane, right? And we have people that are absolute advocates of ourselves without even being attached to the brand as a customer, which is even more
Exactly.
compelling for me to do it without expectation, right? But now looking back on it, they're like, so what other opportunities can we get you involved with so you can get in front of more people? So it kind of completely put itself on its head. But the
Yeah.
whole thing is there's two different attitudes to come in when you do this type of thing. And it's, trust me, it's hard. It's
Well,
not easy.
I don't know about you guys that are ladies and gentlemen that are listening here, but I don't know if that's something. I mean, he's not really. How did you get involved? I mean, I went to Sparks. I spoke at a Sparks. What did you do that too, or did you just go as a visitor?
So I was invited by Janet Greer.
Okay. Okay.
She was actually a customer of mine. She was like, you would love this. Your
Yeah.
personality totally fits it. And it does on a one-on-one basis, but not in a room. Um,
But you've done a.
and and
Yeah.
then kind of from there, I was introduced to people that, kind of were like, hey, you should come check out this group. You should come check out this group. And, early on in it, it was like, this is really hard to go in and come alongside of folks that serve in the consumer space, right? Because we do a bulk of our business on a business to business basis, right? Not everything, but a majority of it. And now looking back on it now is it's just, I didn't see the bigger picture of things, right? I didn't see the fact that brand and awareness was so important. I just expected, in the roundabout sense of, hey, the expectation is we get to know each other and we help in business, because that's the way it's said in the beginning. But trying to dig down on the why to justify the time, it's not hard anymore. And I don't make everything. I do the best I can within the skills that I am. I'm only one person.
You're only one person, and I mean, and I could probably get everybody that's here that knows you would agree that you're one person, but we don't, I mean, you are there to make introductions. I don't know if that's innate. I don't know if that's something you can tell people, but it's, it can be learned, right? I think.
I mean, the whole thing with it is so when I consider like a strategic partner, right?
Right.
It's you really got to think of like the last one that made a whole bunch of sense. But well, okay, I'll give you an example. So there was one of our churches, they're throwing an event at the end of the month, and they couldn't find anyone to do their lanyards. I really stray away from that stuff. So I handed off to a gentleman that I was like, can you help? Like, I'm not going to make the introduction unless I know you can help, right? Because it's either yes or no. And he messaged back and we get them a quote, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be there on time, if not a week early, which is fine. But like, the whole thing with it is it's being able to solve a problem really quickly, right? Even if it
Right.
doesn't land in business. And so I don't know, it just it comes into a space where it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a really like compelling way of putting it, but it's just, you're known for what you do, right? Not what you say. And if you're making an introduction, sure, we could go in and have a meeting with a completely new prospect and say, hey, I do a ton of networking, so whenever you need connections, let me know. I've done that. It doesn't sound bad either. It's not a bad thing to say. But I've also found it a little bit more compelling when I'm like, hey, listen, I know you guys are dealing with XYZ issue. Would it make sense to make this introduction for you? And holy, is that a game changer? And it gives a whole nother meaning and a reason to do discovery meetings with other professionals just to get to know them, because you're going to find out how to problem solve something that might not even be related to what that individual does professionally. I met one gentleman that was worked over at Bosma. They do a lot of kitting and fulfillment. We needed help on a project. He said, look, full disclosure, you guys are just too small. It's a one-off job. It's just not something we're looking for. But I do have a young youth group that this would be absolutely fantastic for. So not only did he solve my problem, we helped we helped make a church money, raise funds, and we got some kids paid on top of it. And it was, it's one of those examples where I'm like, would have never thought about it, but I'm, one track mind and something completely different. And that's powerful to me. And that's been a good relationship that we've been able to take on opportunity that we would say, hey, look, thanks, but no thanks.
I think that's really awesome. I actually have asked Robert a couple of times, well, what keeps you coming back to TTR? Because I don't even know. When he was talking about doing the Sparks, I'm trying to think how you got an invitation to us. But if you were talking to Jenny Greer and you're talking to Sparks, it's very likely that somewhere in there was a connection. I don't know what it was, but do you remember? Do you know?
Well, I can tell you last year we published 5 books. For various other individuals, which has been really good for us.
Okay.
The whole thing with how we got introduced, I had going back to the sales manager conversation, I had another sales rep that came in and made an appearance to your guys's Wednesday group that I ended up joining, that I'm still a part of.
Yes.
And again, it's presence, it's being there, right? So I was like, well, I'm not gonna like all of a sudden, Sebastian was his name. He went on to another opportunity that that landed him an opportunity to get his MBA paid for, and
that's what it was. I remember Sebastian. Now that you say that, Sebastian, yes, I remember that. Okay.
I was in his wedding. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. That was after he's having his second kid now. So
well, Robert, so the books that you were talking about, you published, tell us more about that, because I know you've mentioned that to me. What does that mean? I mean, those are books that who you guys.
So the relationship came from Laura Rao.
Okay, there you go. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to
and she introduced me to a graphic designer that, kept me in the back of her mind, right? Hey, can you help with this? And we've done quite a bit of business with her. She's been really spot on. I don't have to, do this when I see files. I don't have to like be that guy and say, yes, hey, you're being unreasonable.
Yes.
And that she's got times where it's not ideal for, our process, but like the whole thing with it is there's the relationship there, right? And I find oftentimes it's like, if it doesn't fit in the widget that I'm trying to give you, I'm not interested. I hate that. It doesn't seem like we're trying here. I had a conversation with a client that I've known for 6 years, and she goes, I don't want you to make any special trips. And I was like, when did you think for 5 minutes that I stopped wanting to try and earn the business?
That's cool.
And like, that's the whole thing is it's like, doesn't have to be what's perfect. It's just, if you feel it, say it. If it feels right, go for it. If it feels like it's something that, hey, I'm going out on a limb and I'm uncomfortable, I've never been hesitant to say, hey, I'm in uncharted territory. I really want to help you, but I don't know how.
Right.
And it sucks when that happens, because my
Yeah.
my dad's like, you always like being right. And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. But the funny thing was is when you were going back and saying, this guy's head's always turning and stuff. This was never meant as a compliment, but my dad comes to me about a month ago and he goes, man, I've been doing this for over 40 years and you still come up with stuff that I've never done before. And that was probably the funniest slash best compliment I've received in the past month. But
Right. That's
it's
nice.
fun. It's fun coming up with something that's different, because it gives us an opportunity to grow.
So what did they do? I mean, just brief, you don't have to go in because I do want to talk about a few other things before we're done, and definitely open up the floor to questions because what they do, they did something. You've been only part of them for about 9 years. You said 10 years, right? What did they do? What do you think some of their tricks to their longevity? Because I mean, were they just curious as well? Maybe didn't realize the networking was so powerful. What were they doing?
They had a bad experience. That's why
Oh,
they didn't have a good taste about networking. It went the other way. One of the horror stories that you don't want to have happen happened. I'm not going to get too specific, but inevitably, a colleague decided to bring a competitor through without the acknowledgement that it was a competitor. And then, the other side of that story could be looked at as I've been doing this and coming the whole time, and people are sitting there promoting a competitor outside of
mm-hmm.
the group.
Oh,
Uh,
I see.
those are two stories that, I hold near and dear to the person that shared them with me. And, out of respect, that's the furthest I can go. But
Yeah,
the
sure.
whole thing with it is, you're right. That does suck. That would make me mad. I would want to move on to, not having to deal with that. But like outside of the networking and how we earn business and all the other stuff is there was a lot less automation in this industry
Mm-hmm.
before I came along, and way before I came along in that note of, back in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s, we were taking film and putting it on a piece of paper and lining that up, and we had to do that for 4 different colors, and that's how you made 4-color process. Now you can just do it on a computer and spit it out to a plate maker, and you got plates in 15. And if y'all are like, what the heck is this kid talking about, you got to come in for a plant tour and I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the whole thing with it is, if you had a job to get done, you had to spread the work out. I mean, there was no way that you could get it done under one roof. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
Now I'd say anymore, we've been in the digital print space, or 4-color digital copiers is really what they are. But we were one of the first to invest in that technology. I know that for a fact. We've been doing it for over 25 years. The whole thing with it is we didn't sell that, so to speak, until we knew that it was a product that we could stand behind. I think the biggest thing of why we've stayed in business for as long as what we have is we've always been fair on what we've offered as far as cost associated with it. We've always been more than willing to explain why, if there is any question within that. The other thing too is I know for a fact that we stand behind every single one of our jobs. It says
Yeah.
it on my invoice. You got up to 5 days to tell me that there's something wrong with this, so we can get this fixed, or I can work out another conversation where we can make it right with the customer. I can't tell you how many people probably had a bad experience with .com, that said, sorry about you. And that's when I kind of come back to the conversation of you get what you pay for. And I think there's a lot of time invested into each one of our projects that makes a lot of sense. And I don't even get to price the job. I don't even get to do anything other than go and tell you, well, this is why it costs. And unfortunately, this is why it's going to take this long, or this, that, and the other. It's my job to explain the why behind it. It's not the how much. That's what my dad gets paid for. That's what my aunt gets paid for. That's why there are estimators, have been for
Yeah,
several years.
yeah. That's actually funny, Robert, though. You and I'll just say it real quick, and not to at all to say anything about offset house printing, but he told me, what was it? You just got the automation to actually take payments online. I think that's funny. I'm sorry, I think it's funny with the fact you've been around for 59 years. I just think that's funny, but it goes to show, yeah, the automation is there, but it's not as, I think you're doing something different than it's, yeah.
And once it gets like to the point where I'm like, hey, this is how cool it is. But yes, no, we will have we are investing into a platform that's going to be able to do a lot for our customers. Basically all the way to the point of order entry to a website, to it calculating shipping rates and printing the labels for us and all the other stuff. And I'm really excited about it, but we tiptoe within that space just because it is an offering that's more or less kind of a standard across our industry. But oh my goodness, I've seen so many of those launches go poorly, and I have kind of said like, yeah, that's why we don't do that. So before I put my foot instantly in my mouth on my younger self, I need to get it polished first.
I think that's cool. I don't know. And I guess, you join, now you told me you don't make every meeting, you do what you can. I think when you do come to the meetings, and when you're able to be, you are a member of a lot, you guys, Offset House, you're members of a lot of different organizations that obviously are in your strategic partnership. They're your ideal strategic partners are part of those groups. So, but it's, I don't know if everybody else is getting that. I don't think there's much that challenges Robert as far as, he'll sit down and talk to you, even if it's on Zoom, right? You'll do that. Is there any, let's see, I was just looking at, we talk about it's relationships first. It's, that takes a while. And maybe that's your parents, your grandparents must have been doing something right, though, to keep it running until you joined them, right? So it is.
Yeah, they didn't let me get away with really anything early on. It was kind of like, yeah, that's just kind of how it is, and you're gonna have to get over it.
Yes. Well, we're just glad that you've stuck around TTR. One of the things I do want to, we've covered a lot, and I know that if you've ever sat down with Robert, you know that what we're talking about, he does, and like I said, on Zoom, because you will do projects for people, not even, they don't have to be right here, do they? They can be anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we have endpoint users or clients, however you want to call it, over in Canada.
Okay.
West Coast, East Coast, Belgium, Germany.
Okay, cool. Well, and that's something, I mean, obviously with the pandemic, we've moved online, and I said, there's people that we want to definitely represent you correctly if you're not wanting to do business outside of the United States or whatever. But you guys are global partners, and this is kind of a new thing. Well, it is a new thing to TTR. We started with, and the reason I reached out to Robert, because he's the only printer in our network. We've had people, like I said earlier, people join that are printers. They have their name on the roster, but they never show up. Oh, whatever. Robert has always been about showing up. And so the global partnership to me was, I wanted to offer it to Robert. He's a member. Typically what we want to look for is somebody who's we can stand, we believe in them. We know that they're here, they're going to represent us well. They basically become a member of the whole network. So Robert's been, popping into all of our meetings. He is a member of Northside's meeting, and that's on Monday or Wednesday mornings. And I know a lot of you are on here, when that is. Robert, I know you said Laura Rao was a member of our Northside meeting, and then she changed industries, did some different things. Has that global partnership, I mean, I guess we talked about it, but your goal in doing that was anything more than just,
There's a bigger play, so I'll share that with everyone.
yeah.
So the big play between that is like, TTR has been good for me and the company, right? And it stands for the foundations of what I believe networking should be, right? So, inevitably, if and when we start to grow, right? And I hope it's a more of a when thing than an if thing, right? I look at this as kind of like a foundation of what I would want to see, folks that represent us help with, right? Because it's not about what you get, it's about what you can give, right? And that's the whole thing. It's really easy to get sucked into, this is all about business development, numbers, and all the other stuff. And though that be true, it shouldn't come expected. It should come passively, right? We're not advocating anyone when we purposely go out of our way just to make something happen. And I think that's the bigger picture of the advocacy that TTR brings, across all groups.
Thank you. Well, thank you for saying that. I think advocacy was a word we've used off and on quite a bit over the years, haven't we, Don? And everybody who's been around for a little bit, yeah. And that would be vice, we would like to believe, not believe, but the global partnership to me was, I have no doubt that Robert does what he says he does. The company's been around forever. I mean, 59 years now, much older than Robert is. We can be very confident that Offset House is going to do what they say they're going to do. If you haven't gotten that picture now. In the global partnership, we want to, they might not be a member. I mean, honestly, there's companies that have, or people have come to our networking groups and they say, can we join the whole network? Well, we've got in almost all of our groups, we've got a mortgage person, insurance, real estate, and finance are almost in all of our groups, almost all of our groups. I've had a couple of our members who are in those industries saying, can we kick out the rest of them and join as no, you can't. That's not what we're talking about. I approached Robert because no other printers have managed. If you know somebody out there that's in an industry that is kind of, or you yourself are connected, we would love to talk to you. We're not going to kick out our current members. That's not what I'm saying. We do have, if there's a restaurant or there's a guy locally here in Indianapolis that has a boat. They do a cruising thing on Morse and on Geist. He's a perfect example. We've had a lot of people ask that. So that is what a global partner. And when I asked Robert about doing it again this year, he actually was very positive about it. So we've got our first global, they do become a member. So I just want to throw that out there. And I don't want to take a lot more time on that. I do want to open it up for questions for Robert. I don't want anybody to feel like if you have questions, you can't ask him here. I will be sending out the link to the recording as well as Robert's contact information. But if you go to ttrnetworking.com, you'll end up on a page, or you go to totherescuein.com. Down on the left-hand side, you'll see Offset House Printing and the Global Partnership, and it's a link to their website and everything. But any questions? What can I open it up, guys? Whatever you want to ask. Robert will have to decide if there's limits to what he'll answer, but any thoughts, any questions? Hey, Henry, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Robert, question for you. I'm a laser printer specialist. I do managed print. And most networking groups are more consumer related. I don't want the consumer. If you're not doing 2,000 pages a month, I don't want to talk to you.
There he is.
I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you are.
I'm a managed print professional. All I do is managed print. I don't do IT at all. I do managed print. Down in your area, because I'm actually in South Bend, all the Horizon banks. It's probably the one down there, the biggest one I'd know, because I don't have a lot in the Indianapolis area. I'm out of South Bend. What do you see for someone like myself?
And it's a good question. The only thing that would be worthwhile for you would be if somebody's doing internal bill pay or documents that are going outside to other people. So it would be somebody that's mailing out over 4 to 10,000 bills, statements a month.
2,000 pages is all I need.
Well, I know that, but I mean, we're
Yeah,
trying to
of
make
course.
money, right?
I like the customers, you know, I have that do in the millions of pages every month. I smile each time I send that bill out. So
Yeah, but I'm the biggest I ever ran, and I'm not trying to like brag, but the most we've ever ran was 234,000 clicks in 1 month.
I like customers that do that. I have several, so. Then I also have a lot of customers that don't hit their minimum of 2,000 a month, so get charged
Yeah.
for it anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just not good business when you got a piece of equipment sitting there. It's just not good. It's just not good business.
But maybe, is there a, Henry, I forgot about you doing printing. I'm glad you're on here. Henry is actually a connection through Larry Levine, KCD, Dawn. So, you know, if anybody knows Larry Levine and Selling from the Heart, I don't know Henry. I know that you've got your own whole world, but that's how we got connected. And I'm so glad you signed up today. I would hope that maybe you and Robert, if there's some, you know, conversation there. I will send out I did send it out to Robert, but I'm going to send out a follow-up to this with the link for the recording, definitely. So, yes, go ahead.
I'm gonna keep playing in at Henry's thing too, because there are often times that people think I do what you do.
Oh, no.
So
I can't do what you do. I support a number of companies that
yeah, no, so like full disclosure on that too is like you know, we could go against that line too, because there are folks where it does absolutely make sense for them to do, like for instance churches, if it's a program that they're doing on a weekend basis and they have 300 people in their congregation, it's probably not going to make that much sense for me to manage that whole thing.
No.
But for you, I know it's not going to take that long to get to 2,000 clicks.
Well, and everything's, you know, I've got customers as far west as Oregon that I'm managing. As far east as Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Iowa, Kansas, Utah. You know, it just technology has changed the industry so much.
Yeah, I want one of those B2 inkjet presses if you want to know what I want.
I see stuff coming across used, but because I'm not authorized to do service on it, I don't sell it.
Well, the cost of those inkjet heads scares me. So, you know.
I understand. I'm looking at the wholesale cost. I just got rid of a big tabloid copier this morning. Okay. I wholesaled it off to someone in town that likes to work on his own equipment because I can't buy the parts for it. I told him that up front, but it was either scrap it or find somebody who would give me $1,000 for it. Buy it. So
it does sound like you two need to talk, obviously, right?
You get to talk shop. That's
You
what's
talk
more
shop.
fun.
I know. Well, and so I know, Dawn, you took your mute off. Did you have a question for Robert?
I was just going to ask. I thought I heard Robert mention something about plant tours. Do you offer tours of your business so people can actually see your operations, what you do?
I'd like to see that myself.
Yeah, no, I
like
actually
that idea.
It's fun for me because I get to explain how it works and what can happen and what we try to do to make sure that doesn't happen. It just helps you. I mean, it's an art, not a science, right? That's what it is. So yeah, no, plant tours definitely anytime. And then
Awesome.
the other thing I do too is like if you want like the quote unquote offset house version of how it's made, you can hook up with me on LinkedIn, and I try and post a video once a week on just a job as it's going through production.
I didn't know that, Robert.
Hey, Robert, you've only got a follow on LinkedIn because I just tried to hook up with you and it just says follow. It doesn't say connect.
Man, I might be like full on connections. I hope I'm not. That
But
would be weird.
Robert is, well, I don't know. I don't want to talk. Robert, what other questions? You guys are located over off of 96th Street. So if you're in the Indianapolis area, or Henry, if you want to come down and take a tour, or you guys get to connect here. And Bruce, I don't know if you need any printing done, but definitely the plant, you probably do, right?
Well, I'm a retread out of the printing industry. Robert, do you do color management?
Yeah, we
Are you
do that
using
through
G7?
AFI.
Are you using something called G7?
Yeah, so we qualified for G7 on our
Okay,
second
well,
poll.
I'm
So
I'm the founding co-chair for Grackle. I
Okay.
started Grackle like 2 decades ago. So yeah, I'd love to come by and see your shop. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, no, there's Peters who hooked us up with, that's the guy behind the rip. I forget where he's working now, but we got in some
What
hot
rip are you
water.
using? What rip?
Man, that's the one
Fiery?
thing I don't know. It's
Oh, okay.
all our copiers are all fiery rips, but I mean, going to
Okay.
the plate maker, I think it's still on like yeah, I don't remember.
Are you using Fuji or Agfa plate?
Abga.
Okay. I used to work for them. So,
So,
Well, Lynn Van Sickle's over there now,
oh,
and he's been in that consumables industry forever.
yeah.
so there we go. We connected. All of our guys that are on the call have now connected, and then we're going to hear all kinds of great things are going to happen because these guys know each other now. I would just, this was more about, just join, connect with each other on LinkedIn. I will, if everybody's okay with that, I'm going to send out the sign up for this because it's got Bruce, it's got Henry, it's got it's got everybody's email. We might have had maybe 1 or 2 that have dropped off since we started, but everybody's on there. I would just encourage you to connect, and more that we do here with the TTR. I've always, it's not that we are blessed to have all of our members, but I've talked to Robert a number of times and I said, why do you keep coming back? And I know that one of the connections was Laura Rao, but Laura hasn't been a member of our network for a while because she was in the hospitality, she's changed industries, she's done, this is how it works though. This is, we all know this. So it's relationships, guys. Go out and meet people. I don't care if you're on Zoom or you're in person or you're, I don't care. Just get out and meet people. That's what it's all about. Thank you, Robert, for being part of our network and I know every time I sit down with you, or any group you're on, you're always trying to figure out who to connect people with. That's what it's about. You solve a problem, right? They need connections. That's what it is. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will follow up with a link to this. Anybody got any other questions? Deb, I know you've been on. Anybody got any? Bruce, we're glad to see you. Henry, I'm glad to see you. That was really, I thought that was you when I put the email in. I'm like,
Bruce,
Yeah.
when you pull up Robert's thing, click on the more, and then you can connect to him
Oh,
on
okay.
LinkedIn.
I wouldn't even know that. LinkedIn makes
Yeah,
me
I was
crazy sometimes.
looking and I was like, man,
I just sent you an invite.
right on.
And Robert is actually a member of our Wednesday morning group that meets at 8 a.m. or 8:15 on Zoom right now, although we're talking about possibly trying to do more live, which we'll do. We'll figure that out. KCD, Dawn Evans Casey, that's her husband's. But Dawn, when does your group meet?
Tuesday evenings at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom.
And it's a really good group. We have a group of people that can't do daytime. So they meet on Dawn's call, and Dawn is our unbelievable leader of the collaborating connections. And then Deb, real quick, when does your group meet? We now meet
We now meet on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. on Zoom.
On Zoom, but we do have a once a month.
Once a month,
Right.
we meet at the Haverstick for an open networking meeting on a
And we
Friday.
met some great people, and poor poor Deb, sorry, not Dawn, was now coming out. She's coming out of COVID. She looks great compared to what she looked like yesterday. She looks great today. She wasn't looking as bad yesterday as she thought she did, but thank you. I'm so glad you're better. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. And I would just encourage you, if you're not networking with TTR, I hope you're networking somewhere because you need to do it. Thank you, Robert. Robert. If you know anybody that needs to know about Robert or wants to take a tour, Robert, hopefully you'll keep us all posted on what that is. I've been there. It's really cool. It is really cool. I think when we went back to the office and you said something like, was that your grandmother that was at the office window or something?
Yeah,
think
well,
that's
no,
what
my mom's normally up front with Macy, and that's Monday through Thursday. So if you guys want to see a Rottweiler, that's when you gotta come by. And then Archer, who is currently sleeping and snoring underneath my desk, is here every day.
But isn't there something really special about that, knowing that this is a family business and there's all these people involved? So thank you, Robert. We thank you,
Cool.
thank you, thank you. Here's to an awesome 2023. Everybody have a great day. I will send out the link. Please connect with those people that you need to. Robert, you're awesome. Everybody have a great day.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.
Bye.